Christmas is the Mass of Christ. Christ Mass. The celebration of Christ.
Yes. Christmas is all about Jesus. It's all about Christ. Quran borrowed the stories and they're not historical.
Okay, so the Quranic account is written 600 years later. The biblical account is written just after Christ died. Are you ready, folks?
Yes.
Do you want to hear this?
Yes.
If you did, you'd be walking away. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're talking, he wants to get me off trumpet. He wants to get me onto Allah. I'm not here to talk about Allah. I'm here to talk about Jesus. Muslims have no idea why Mary had to be a virgin, because the Quran doesn't tell you so. You're not going to find it here in the Quran. You've got to come to the Bible. It's another mistake in the Quran.
Yeah.
No wonder, don't go to the Quran, folks, if you want to find about Mary. You'll get the wrong Mary. You'll get the Mary, the sister of Moses and Aaron. She lived in 1400 BC.
Yeah.
How could that Mary also be the mother of Jesus?
Oh, well, she gave birth to Jesus when she was 1,400 years old.
1400-year-old.
Imagine!
That Mary's father is Imran.
Yeah.
It's in your mind.
That's proof now that all Muslims believe that Imran is the father of Mary, when we know Heli is the father of Mary. They've got the wrong man, they've got the wrong woman, they've got the wrong father. Can you understand why we don't trust this book anymore? What's the real story behind Christmas? Who is it about? What's the name of the person in the word Christmas? What we're going to do today is we're going to unpack that for you. We're going to look at Christ, the man behind Christmas. And Hatun, isn't Christ mean Messiah, right?
Messiah, yeah.
That's another name for Messiah. And the Muslims also know who the Messiah is. Because in the Quran, in this book here, he's mentioned 11 times. That's the Al-Masihu in the Quran, am I correct?
Yes, in the
And
Quran,
the Al-Masihu in the Quran is the Christ that we talk about in Christianity. So Christmas is the Mass of Christ. Christ Mass. The celebration of Christ.
Yes, Christmas is all about Jesus. It's all about Christ.
So that's why we want to talk about him today. But what we're going to do, since I see you're all Muslims, are you not? You're not Muslims? You're a Christian, but you're a Muslim. Okay, come forward. I want to talk to the Muslims. We're going to do a comparative between the Christians and the Muslims. Are you a Muslim?
I am.
Good. We're going to talk to you specifically. And we're going to look at the story in both books. Because you have the story, do you not, Hatun? In both the Quran and the Bible.
Yes, in the Bible we read the story of Jesus. Also we read the story of Jesus from the Quran. We read the birth story of Jesus from the Quran as well.
Yeah. No, you don't call it Christmas. And the word Christmas is not in the Bible either. That is what we now talk about that time, the birth of Jesus Christ. So Jesus is known as Isa in the Quran, right?
Yes, Isa Messiah, Isa son of Mary, and Isa.
In the Bible, it's Yeshua.
Yes.
So you have Yeshua versus Isa.
Yes,
You got two different names. We're not going to go into the names today. We've already talked about that, haven't we?
Yeah.
And Yeshua is the one we want to talk about. But let's look at both accounts. Now, help me here, Hatun. Why are they different? Or are they the same account?
They're absolutely different. Story of Jesus in the Bible is very different than story of Isa in the Quran.
They're quite different.
They're quite
the
different.
biblical account of Jesus and the Quran account of Isa. But it's the same man.
That's what we can claim. That's what we can say.
So why do they be different stories?
One of the reasons is because Quran man-made. One of the reasons because Quran borrowed the stories and they're not historical.
Okay, so the Quranic account is written 600 years later. The biblical account is written just after Christ died, right?
Yes, biblical account, birth of Jesus is
100 years.
Approximately.
So
If
you're
you look
putting
at
another 100 years onto what I put.
No, like if you look at the earliest complete Bible, Quran, then I think 700
8th
will be.
century.
Yeah,
So that's
700 will be
700.
fair.
Are you following what she says? Why is that important, Hatun? Why is it important that we look at the dates of these two accounts?
Because if you want to find out story is correct or reliable, you look at the writings which is written close to the time.
The closest to the time is the most authoritative.
Yes. So,
Especially if it's written by those who knew Jesus Christ.
yes, when we look at the Bible, we read the biography of Jesus is written by people who knew Jesus or written by people who passed on the information, who had the first connection with Jesus. Versus when we read the account of birth of Jesus in the Quran, which is written by people who lived approximately 600, 700 years after Jesus.
They did not know Jesus. They never were where Jesus lived. They never lived in Palestine. They were never near Bethlehem. They never were in Jerusalem. They knew nothing about who Jesus was, what he did, where he lived, how he lived, what he said, what he did. Everything they wrote about is from oral tradition. Hundreds of years of oral tradition before it's finally written down. And I have a problem with oral tradition, Hatun.
I don't have a problem too.
You have a problem as well.
I think Muslims should have a problem with that as well.
Which may explain what we're going to talk about today. Because we're going to talk about that event. We're going to look at both of those stories. And we're going to see that one story is not the same as the other. So which is the real story of Jesus? Which is the real story of Christmas is what we want to answer today. Are you ready, folks?
Yes.
Do you want to hear this?
Yes.
If you did, you'd be walking away. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're talking, he wants to get me on trumpet. He wants to get me onto Allah. I'm not here to talk about Allah. I'm here to talk about Jesus. What's his name?
Jesus.
What's his name?
Jesus.
Oh, I love that name. Let's get back to Jesus. Let's get back to Christ. Let's get back to Christmas. And let's open up the two stories. So, what are the two stories we hear?
So we read the account of Jesus, birth of Jesus in the Bible, and Bible tells us Jesus was born from the Virgin Mary. And then we read the same account from the Quran, and Quran tells us mother of Isa was a virgin woman.
Okay, so they both talk about a virgin. Why is a virgin birth important, Hatun? Now, let me ask any Muslims. The Muslims here. In Surah 19, Ayah 20. In Surah 19, Ayah 20, you have that Maryam is a virgin. Why is that important? So why should she be a virgin?
Because it's a miracle.
So he agrees that this is a miracle birth.
Okay.
Why specifically this miracle?
Because God, you want that.
No, wait a minute. No, that's not good enough.
Creator of the earth.
There could have been many miracles that God could have used. Why specifically this miracle?
Because God wants that.
You don't know, do you?
No, God.
You have no answer, do you? Your Quran doesn't tell you, do you?
He told me. This is broke.
So when you don't have an answer, and you need an answer, who are you supposed to come to?
The Quran.
No, you're not.
People of the book.
Go in the Quran, Surah 10, Ayah 94. Surah 21, Ayah 7.
And
Surah 4, Ayah 136.
You have one.
If you have any questions,
You have one surah
come to us. Come to the people of the book.
Understand
We
Injil.
are people of the book. He's already not paying
Understand
attention.
Quran.
Mark, can you see?
All
He's
those that
already
have
moving away.
Quran in my heart.
Now, Hatun, can you see? They've got to come back to the book, don't they?
Yes, according to Quran, if Muslims doesn't understand what's happening, they're in a doubt. They have to come to Christians and Jews. They have to come
People
to
of the
us.
book, they've got to come to us. And why is it important that this woman is a virgin? Why is it important that this one who brings the Messiah is a virgin? No. Where do we go to find out?
Alright, for sure we cannot go to Quran because Quran fails to tell us what is the importance of the virgin birth. So we go back to Bible. We read in the writings of Isaiah.
We go back to Isaiah.
Look for him.
Which is written around 750
750 years prior to Jesus' birth.
Yeah.
You go back to the prophet Isaiah, and what does the prophet Isaiah say?
So, in Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14, therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to the son, and he will call Emmanuel. God
Okay, did
is
you all
with
hear that?
us.
No, you didn't, because he was yelling the whole time. Let's repeat it again. So back in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, we have reference to someone who would come. This shall be a sign, Isaiah says. A virgin will conceive and bear a son. This is 700 years earlier.
Yeah.
A virgin, it says, will come. Now hold on a minute, Hatun. Virgins do not conceive sons.
Yes.
Not in my world, they don't.
They don't conceive.
They don't in your world either.
And you.
And certainly in all these people, virgins do not conceive.
Yeah. But according to the Bible, according to Isaiah tells us virgin is going to give birth to a son.
Okay, so it says very clearly, when a virgin conceives, wake up, people. Because this just doesn't happen. Are you listening, sir? The miracle is that a virgin will conceive. Isaiah said it in 750 BC. He said, when a virgin conceives, wake up. This will be a sign. That's in my Bible. That's why the Quran has to use the Bible to understand why that's important. You've got to come back to the Bible. You've got to go to Isaiah.
And you have to.
But what does he say next?
And you
What does Isaiah say next?
Just a moment.
Go ahead. What does he say next?
So, Isaiah tells us virgin is going to give a birth, and then we read the same
To
story.
a girl?
Birth to son.
To a boy. Why is that important? Because in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God said to Eve that someone will come in the line of a woman. It has to be in a woman's line and will bear someone. That means it has to be a male.
He will crush the head of the
He
Satan.
will crush the head of Satan. So this person who's coming in the line of a woman, he will crush the head of Satan. That's at the very beginning of the Bible, is it not? Isaiah is talking about that event, about that person.
So Isaiah is taking us back, and he's telling us that son is going to born very soon. And then we look at the Quran, and then we see in the Quran, yes, there is a virgin woman who is giving birth to son.
And who is this son that he's giving birth to? She's giving birth to.
Jesus.
Wait, doesn't say Jesus. Who is this son in Isaiah 7:14? What shall he be called?
He will be called Emmanuel. God
Say
is
it again.
Emmanuel.
And
God,
what does that mean?
God is with us.
So when this virgin conceives a boy, it will be Emmanuel, God with us. This will be God who comes to earth. Did you all hear that? How can you see, Muslims, why you need to come back to us to ask us why this is significant? Muslims have no idea why Mary had to be a virgin, because the Quran doesn't tell you so. You're not going to find it here in the Quran. You've got to come to the Bible. You've got to come to Isaiah.
If you go with the Quranic account, then Quran tells us actually Mary was approximately 1,400 years old when she gave birth to
1,400 years old.
yes, 1,400 years old when she gave birth to Jesus.
Because she was the sister of Aaron, the daughter of Imran, who is also the father of Moses, who had a sister named Miriam. So the Quran confuses the two Marys. It's one of the many Quranic problems we have. It's another mistake in the Quran. No wonder, don't go to the Quran, folks, if you want to find about Mary. You'll get the wrong Mary. You'll get the Mary, the sister of Moses and Aaron. She lived in 1400 BC. How could that Mary also be the mother of Jesus?
Oh, well, she gave birth to Jesus when she was 1,400
year old. Now, we're not saying that God can't do that, but I doubt very much it's the same Mary. So now we come to this Mary, the Mary of the first century, the Mary who is the virgin. This virgin had a son. Why is that important from a biblical standpoint?
So, because Bible tells us from the beginning, when man and woman sin against God, solution for that sin was a man is going to come from the woman and going to crush the head of the Satan.
Okay.
So it takes us back to the story of Genesis, where first man and woman choose to separate from God.
Okay.
And also, Bible talks about this virgin birth. Bible talks about this son, and Bible tells us this son is going to come in the line of King David.
Okay, so he's coming in the line of King David. Where do you get that in the Old Testament?
Well, I can read, there are lots of sources, but one of the reference can be Jeremiah chapter 23, verse
So
5
Jeremiah
to 6.
chapter 23, verses
5 and 6.
5 and 6 says that this Messiah, this Christ, which Christmas is about,
Yeah.
will have to come in the line of David. You're a Jew, are you not? You know that the Messiah has to come in the line of David because of Jeremiah chapter 22.
23.
Chapter 23, verse 5 and 6.
Unlike the Mahdi, which comes through the line of Ishmael.
That's right. Mahdi comes in the line of Ishmael. He's not your Messiah, is he? So you know the Messiah has to come in the line of David. Now, let me ask you something, Hatun. Does Jesus come in the line of David?
According to the Bible, yes, Jesus does.
Both through his father and his mother.
Yeah.
The father in Matthew 1,
Yeah.
the mother in Luke 3.
Yeah.
So through both lines, in Matthew 1 through Solomon, down through Jeconiah, down to Jacob, who was the father of Joseph, but Joseph was not Jesus' father.
Yeah.
So that's the wrong line. That's why Luke wrote the other line,
Yeah.
which is David through Nathan. Jeconiah is not in that line. He's the cursed king, on whose throne David will not sit.
Yeah.
So that's the pure line that comes through Heli, who they thought was the father of Joseph, but you know, saying to the disciples, he's the father of Mary.
So, Luke Gospel gives us the account of genealogy of Jesus from the line of Mary, versus Matthew, who is the tax collector, gives us the account of Jesus from the line of Joseph.
So both from his adopted father, really,
Yes.
is all we can say.
Yes.
Because he's born of a virgin.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yeah, he's not
So
the
Joseph
biological
had
father.
nothing to do with his birth.
Yes, Joseph is not the biological father, but he's the one who looked after Jesus. He's the one who cared for Jesus, and he's the one who
Adopted father.
Yeah, he's the one who married
He
Mary.
adopted Jesus. So
Yeah.
it's important you look at Mary's line, because there's the pure line. There is nothing wrong in that line.
No.
It's a completely different line than the one in Matthew.
Yeah, because they are looking at it from the different two perspectives.
Two completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
Now, knowing that, we've already gone through that the Quran doesn't understand the virgin birth. It mentions that Mary is a virgin, but it doesn't understand the significance. Only the Bible tells us why that's important. They've got to come to the Bible, the Muslims, if they're going to find out why.
Bible a lot, he never tell a lot of things, Bible.
Bible explains everything. It's the Quran that doesn't understand it.
When Jesus said, I go to pray for God, he was praying for who? If he's the son of God or he's a God, how he pray for himself?
As the
Give me
son.
an answer. Give me an answer.
Continue with this. We'll continue with that later. Continue back on this. He's trying to get us off the subject. And why do you think he's getting off this subject?
Because Quran doesn't provide us any historical evidence. Quran doesn't provide us any proper reason or proper backup stories why Jesus was born from the virgin. Therefore, you have to attack my Bible, because Quran doesn't help you with anything, sir.
But the Quran does say in the verses we looked at, Surah 10, Surah 21,
Yeah.
Surah 4,
What's important?
Surah 5. I mean, there's about 5 or 6 different references. If you have any question, come back to the Bible, come back and ask the Christians,
Yeah.
come back and ask the Jews why that the virgin birth had to come. Why that this woman had to be a virgin when she gave birth to the Son. Emmanuel, God with us.
But Jay, think about it.
Yeah.
So, Quran thinks Mary was so important. Quran gives whole chapter to Mary.
surah is
Quran
about
gives
Mary.
whole chapter to Mary. Surah 19 is all about Mary.
about Mary.
Named as chapter Mary. Yet Quran fails to tell us why.
Also for her family.
Surah Imran.
Yeah.
Yet Quran fails to tell us why Mary was
He's saying
murdered.
that Mary's father is Imran.
Yeah.
It's in your mind. It's
That's
fair,
proof
but it's not
now
fair.
that all Muslims believe that Imran is the father of Mary, when we know Heli is the father of Mary. They've got the wrong man, they've got the wrong woman, they've got the wrong father. Can you understand why we don't trust this book anymore? It's just not historical.